What's up everybody? In this video we'll learn how to set up a basic Angular project. We'll delve more into Angular 17 syntax. We'll break our components into multiple subcomponents, and finally a basic UI for our chat application. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this video we'll be exploring Angular 17 a bit more further. So we'll be building a chatbot interface where we can sort of interact with our chatbot, ask questions, and our chatbot can reply back to us. Obviously we'll be using OpenAI at the back to generate the responses. So yeah, let's get into this. So the very first thing I need to do, I need to create a new application. So I'll use the Angular CLI for that. So ng new exploring Angular. We are being asked for the style sheet format, so I'll go with SCSS. Perfect. So we have all of our dependencies installed and our basic application is all ready to go. So let's clear this up. Let's go to cd exploring Angular, and we have all these files generated for us. So let's check if everything is working. All right, so we need to go to localhost 4200. All right, so the basic application is working. Let's get into the code. So we'll open our exploring Angular file, and here we are. All right, so we have our basic app component over here. We have our app CSS file over here. It's kind of empty right now, and we have our basic application component TS file over here with all my configurations residing here. We won't be doing anything within this video. The idea is to generate the basic components and the breakdown. But before we begin, I think it would be kind of nice to sort of segregate or understand that what kind of UI we need to build, and to understand that what would be the component division. So let's take a moment and sort of break down our UI into different components. Okay, so what we really need is some sort of a panel. And we would need some sort of a header with a title. And it's pretty similar to what we have on WhatsApp. So we need a footer bar as well. And this would be a text region. Text region / text area / input. This is where we write, and we would have some sort of a button over here for sending the message, or we can think about, having an alternative recording button as well alongside with this. But we'll see about that, because we need to record our voice and send it to our assistant as well. After that, we need some sort of a way where we can send messages with our avatar, and we can receive messages back with our assistant's avatar and our assistant's response. So we have like a very simple looking architecture over here in terms of the front end layout. So we have, in order to segregate it, we have this very first component, this would be our second component, and this would be our third component. So we can call it like a header component. This would be a message panel. And this would be user input. We can make a separate component for our messages. We can call it message because it would have two divisions. The very first would be the image itself and the message itself. So we can think about it. Okay, in terms of communication, we need our data input over here. And obviously, we would then later on need to sort of push it to the message panel. And we need this event to be hooked up here. So we can say that we can make a parent component called app itself. This would be the whole parent component that would hold all of these components together. And the title component would be, obviously this looks like presentational. Nothing special over here because we don't need any sort of a communication mechanism for the title. The only communication would be done over here, and we can have all of our bindings within the message panel and our user input component. All right, so this is what we really want. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I hope you understand the division and the type of components we need to make and the components in which we need to accommodate the communication. So let's dive into the code. All right, so welcome back into the code. So let's get our dice rolling. So we need three components initially. The very first one should be ng generate component user input. All right, we have our basic user input component set up. Then we need message panel. Perfect. And then we need we already have our app component, which would be like the parent component for all these subcomponents. So the third component that we need is we can generate the message component as we discussed a bit later when we have all the styling done and when we have all the message formats ready to go. So before that, we have user input, we have message panel, and the last component that we would need would be a header. Perfect. So let's minimize these, and here we have all these components. All right, so we need all these components stacked up within our application component. So I need to get rid of all the UI over here. So basically this is referring to this page. So I need to remove this, save, and to sort of import my components first, I need to get back to my app component TS file, and we need our header component. Perfect. We need our lastly we need our header component. So I'm gonna import that to header component. Oh, we have already done that, so need the user input component. Let's get rid of this. Import user input component. Perfect. Let's add it to our imports. Currently, we don't have a particular module for that, just to keep things simple. So let's just import the components there. Perfect. Now I should be able to reference these components within my app page. Just gonna give it a class. Have our header component over here. Then we need our app message panel, and this should also be app header. Perfect. And then we need app user input. Perfect. Let's see if everything works as we need it to work. We'll have to build it again. type in ng-serve. All right, so everything is working. So we have our header component, then we have our message panel component, and then we have our user input component. Perfect. Let's get into these components, and let's, I think we should sort of jump into the user input component first. Let's type in our class. We need to get this to our SAS file, and we'll just leave this here. Next, I need an input text field. And yes, we need a button as well. Send message, or let's just say send. Let's see how it looks like. So it looks like this. We can have a placeholder over here. To a message here. Okay. Let's just say enter your message. We'll actually have to deal with the width. Let's just say class user input. Let's just say button. And over here we can say input container. I think input text field would be a better name. Let's add it to our SAS wrapper. Control C, Control V, perfect. All right, so what we really need to figure out, as we discussed in the UI breakdown, that we need our application component would act as our container component. The header component would be a presentational component. It would only consist of a certain heading. If you want to customize it, we can customize it later. For time being, we need our communication between our user input component and the message panel. So we want whenever we type in a message and we hit the send button, we need that particular input to be sort of emitted out of our component to our app component, which happens to be the container component. And from there, we want that message to be transferred to the message panel. So let's go ahead and build that kind of an interaction. So for that, we need ng model first, and we need to type in the word message, quick fix. Okay, we need to declare this property, user input. Let's just increase the size a bit. All right, so I need message. This will be a string, and I'm just gonna type in an empty string for a while. Can bind ng model since it's an unknown property. Okay, for that we need to add forms module to our component. Now it should be fine. All right, so we have our message within this particular variable. To sort of emit it out, we need a output to sort of emit that particular message out to our parent component. So for that, I need to close it up, and I need to say send message emitter, and I can say new event emitter. Perfect. To send our message, we need to build a particular send message functionality, and this takes in an event. Firstly, we can just print out the event to see what we're dealing with over here. All right, so we have implicit any type. Okay, for now, let's type in event. Let's copy this. Let's get back to our HTML page. Click, send message, and let's say event over here as well. All right, let's check this out. We have everything good. We need our console. All right. Hello world. Perfect. So we get the event, and within the event, we have our target button as our target. All right. So everything is working, but we still need to figure out a way to fetch the message. All right. To fetch the message, let's type in our message over here. Let's see if, what do we have here? Hello. And here we have it. So now we can use our this dot send message emitter to emit this message to our parent component. Let's remove this over here. We don't need this event for a while, so I'm just gonna go ahead and remove it. We might play around with it in the upcoming videos. Perfect. So the task, obviously we'll be refining it a bit further in terms of styling and, you know, the functionality itself. Currently, I just need to hook everything together. Perfect. So let's close the other files. Let's get here to our app component. Okay, so within the app component, I need to read this message through send emitter message. So I'm just going to type in send emitter message, and we need some method to be called here. Get message, and let's pass in the event over here. Let's get to our app component file. Let's get the message over here. We have event console.log, and let's see, what do we get here? So this has implicit any type. Let's keep it that way. Perfect. Everything is working. Hello. And since, let's see if we have our console statement removed over here. Okay, so we do. So the only console statement we have is here within the get message. So this should work, and it's not. So let's see what we did wrong. All right, so I think we made a mistake over here. This shouldn't be here. This should be here. Now, if I go back, everything is working. Hello. And we get our hello message from our parent console. Next, we need to sort of form an object around this string, since this is a user message, but we do need some other stuff like who's sending the message or when was the message sent. So we need date time, we need the sender, and obviously we need the message. So I believe the best way to do it is to create a utility folder, and within the utility folder we can create our constants file, constants.ts, and export interface message, and within that interface we need and within this interface we need sender string message string date time, and we need date. Perfect. So let's use this to sort of message object. So the sender can be the user, message can be the event itself, date time can be new date for a while. Let's import this. Perfect. So this is what we have. So whenever we get a message, so as I said, that we'll be transferring the message to our message panel. So the best way is that since we're dealing the app component as a container component, it would be wise to, add all the, all the functionality driven code over here. So what I mean by that is that instead of passing one message at a time to the message panel, it's better to sort of compile all those messages, since the app component would be dealing with all the sending our messages to OpenAI endpoints and fetch the responses and then send those responses to message panel as well. So to avoid any complications around that, functionality, it's better to compile everything and consolidate everything within the app component. So what we can do here is we can create a variable data. This can be a array for messages, and we can use this data dot. We can have this component over here basically, and we can get rid of data itself. Perfect. So we can have data dot push and message object. We're getting a problem here. Can't find what you mean. Oh yeah. Perfect. So here we are. We have all of our data stacked up here. Now we need a way to sort of push our data to the message panel itself. So for that, we can just use a one-way binding to sort of bind the data to a particular input variable within a message panel. So for that, we can build a messages panel over here, and we can say data. Now we need to head to our message panel component, and we can create a input, and we can say messages, which is a message array, and yeah, that would be it. Let's go ahead and add an import statement over here. So the property message has no initializer, so yeah, we can do this. Perfect. So everything seems to be in place. So let's get rid of this. Let's add another section, give it a class, message panel, container. Let's do the regular stuff and enter. Now we get to experiment here with the syntax that Angular 17 sort of introduced here. So what I really need to try is our new for loop. So we have it over here. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it over here. So I'm dealing with messages. So by the way, track keyword is mandatory in this for statement. So this also adds up to the performance aspect as well. We get our default empty block. I can say no messages here, and I can type in the word message over here. And obviously we need something to track it by. So what we can do, we can add a particular ID over here. So message dot, we can say content. All right, so to accommodate this, we have to make a few changes within the app component. So we need an ID over here. For that, we need to change a few things within the utility. So let's give it an ID, and this can be a UUID. So let's go ahead, kill the process, and let's UUID. Okay, perfect. So what I really need to do back here within the component file is to import over here. I can say UUID4 just like that. And I need to update this within my constant files as well. Can I say UUID? Let's just say string. All right. So we have our stuff in place. Let's change this to content. We need to update this within the constant file as well. Perfect. Now we have everything in place. Let's kill everything. We have a particular error over here which says scan by messages since it's an unknown property to app.message. It's messages. Okay. Perfect. We have everything in place. So we have a message of messages tracked by message ID in content. Perfect. Let's give it some, minor styling just to sort of have a sense of the segregation. So I'm just going to go here. So this is the header. A copy, and I'm going to paste it over here. Let's say back bow. Perfect. We can give our message panel a lighter version of gray. A0. Perfect. For the user panel, I would say let's give it a light gray. All right, we need to give this like 100% width. We need to give our message panel 100% width, height 100%, and we need to give our header component a width 100%. So let's see everything in action. All right, so let's test this. Okay. This seems to be working. Perfect. So I know this looks a bit ugly at the moment, but for this video, we just wanted to sort of just solidify the interactions between each component and to set up the project. So that being done, within the next video, we'll be styling the whole thing. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.